Bonjour mon petit chifleur, Amber here, and you know what? I think this was my most diverse reading year. I didn't read, ooh, it immediately smears lipstick. I read, I think 62 books this year, so nothing too different from usual. But as far as like genre or age range, or I guess like time period from like release year rather, this is the most like eclectic year. And then when you compare the books that I didn't enjoy, the amount of books that I didn't enjoy to like the amount of books that I did enjoy this year, I think this was a relatively successful reading year. Not bad. It wasn't the worst reading year I've had. And I've had quite a few books that have absolutely rocked me to my core in 2025. So today I wanted to sit down and talk through my favorite reads of 2025, the best books that I read this year, the books that destroyed me in all the best ways. And I really don't want to talk too long because I have quite a few books to get through and the Eagles game is about to come on. This is a very important game. Go Birds. So I have 11 books now. There was a book that I could not put on this ranking list, so I just had to squeeze it in somewhere. I have 11 books to talk through. Before I do that though, there are multiple other books that were on my original list that I just couldn't fit in here, so I just want to do a rapid fire honorable mentions. So some books that I loved but don't have time to talk about. Pure Nessie by Susanna Clarke. The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by somebody. The Saint of Heartbreak by Morgan Dante. The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Heavenly Tyrant by Ziran J. Zhao, which is the sequel to Iron Widow. The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Sula by Toni Morrison. Deja Brew by Celestine Martin, which is like the final of the wishful thinking books. Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark, which honestly should be on this list. Oh, that was magnificent. If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia. If It Makes You Happy, which I also do wish I could have squeezed up here. Absolute excellence. Okay, of course my camera's flashing. I knew I should have taken time to charge it, but I just swore that I would. Let's see how far I can get before it shuts off. Okay, coming in at number 10 is a classic. It's a book that I don't know, I still think I've read it at some point in my life, but I have finally read it at a time where I will remember having read it, and I can't believe I've gone this long. And it's Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Anne of Green Gables is the attachment and love I have for Anne of Green Gables is unreal. I have been obsessed with the movie the entirety of my life. I inherited that directly from my mother. I will not be satisfied. I cannot die until I visit Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and the Avonlea village. I love Anne. My candles, which will be back at some point, I think. I want to say. Who knows? I don't know. But this economy, who knows? I had my Anne with an E candle. It smelled like carrot cake. Love it to death. Anyway, I finally read Anne of Green Gables, and I read Anne back, I think, was it September? It was everything that I needed it to be. It was everything I hoped it would be. It literally just felt like reading the movie on page. It was just so warm, and I just loved the warmth and the comfort of Avonlea. I really did need it at the time. I read it, like I said, I think it was in September, in the midst of a bit of a spiral. It just felt like being with an old friend, and like I said, I need to visit Prince Edward Island immediately. Okay, number 9 is another classic. I read my first Bronte also in September. I read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I'm actually working my way through Jane Eyre right now. I was planning originally to read them back to back, but after I finished this book, I just needed to reset and calm down, and I was like, I'll push it to December. I started it in December, and I'm not, it hasn't gone as easy as Wuthering Heights did, so I'm still working on it. Anyway, Wuthering Heights was a journey. It was an adventure. It was wild. It was bonkers. Every single person in that book is terrible. They are unhinged, and I'm here for it. I'm actually really surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. I mostly read it when I did because between the two of them, one, because Jane Eyre does feel more like a winter book, but because at the time there was a ton of talk revolving, I think the trailer or teaser trailer for the Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi adaptation or whatever of Wuthering Heights had just dropped, and everyone was talking about it. Also, I just saw costume photos. I'm so curious to see what this film is going to be. So I'm like, now's the time. I want to be in the room where it happens. I want to know what we're talking about. I want to be in the conversation. So I read the book. I have my favorite books journal, which I will be doing a flip through of very soon because I finally finished it, and hopefully we'll be starting the next one soon, but it's still in the mail. One, I'm so proud of myself, and this is a true sign of how much I enjoyed this book. I read it all physically. Usually with classics, I kind of struggle to retain anything when I simply read it physically and like to follow along. So I'll usually either fully listen to it on audio or read, or simultaneously read and listen to the book to process what I'm reading. But I was able to really read. I was able to read this all physically, and I read it in like 3 days. I said, while I haven't read Jane Eyre, I've seen multiple movie adaptations, so I'm familiar with the story. Not so in this case. All I really knew was the time period and that some of the characters are pretty unlikable. Every single person in this book is awful, and I find that kind of fascinating. This book is steeped in toxicity and obsession and vengeance. Wuthering Heights is often presented as a romantic book for some reason. I guess romance like genre-wise, not like... Anyway, it's actually pretty horrific. Annoyingly, I couldn't stop thinking about how New Moon was written to parallel this book after Twilight being paralleled to like Romeo and Juliet. I mean, she succeeded in the whole everyone is toxic and obsessive in a gloomy environment. Okay, what was I saying before my camera died? I was just saying, rounding up about Stephenie Meyer taking the paralleling of this book as opposed to Twilight being paralleled with Romeo and Juliet. And I was saying everyone, she really nailed the whole everyone's toxic and like a gloomy environment, and then like the object of the desire is like driven mad by this quote unquote love. I had a grand old time with this book, and I truly do understand the esteem that it has maintained throughout the decades. Hopefully my Jane Eyre experience catches up and we have a similar experience. Okay, the next one, number 8, is technically broke my heart. Most of these books are books that really did break my heart and shattered my spirit a little bit, but it is by a favorite author of mine. I finally read All My Rage by Saboteur, and I did feel like I got hit by a train. So this book follows Noor and Sal, who are both Pakistani teens growing up in like the desert of California. Sal's mother is ill at the beginning of this story, or she dies in the beginning of the story, and he essentially has to take over running their inn and also taking care of his alcoholic father. Noor is secretly trying to apply to college while working for her uncle in his liquor shop, despite the fact that he refuses to assist her. He does not want her basically to succeed. They've been best friends their entire lives. They're both hiding major secrets from each other, from everyone else, and it's kind of just like the weight of the world is on their shoulders, and it slowly and then very not slowly breaks them both down in different ways. And at the beginning of this book they are estranged. This starts after like a major fight that has ripped their friendship apart, but like all of the tragedy happening kind of brings them back together, and kind of like they're kind of the only ones that can fill the gaps for each other. And I'm really not doing the book justice, do I ever? But first of all, Sabaa Tahir will hear from my attorneys, my therapist, my mom. Like, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? When are you gonna be satisfied with hurting me? Doesn't matter the genre, doesn't matter the context of the story. I'm going to be damaged. And I feel like this one maybe even hurt more than An Ember in the Ashes, because it is a contemporary novel. It is steeped in so much reality. You can tell that like there is a lot of like lived experience weaved into the story. Just a sneak peek at the spreads of this. This is one of my favorite spreads from this journal. I just said this book is a lot. It is a lot. It's very heavy. It's very devastating. Check the trigger warnings. It is a lot to deal with. It's devastating, it's overwhelming, but it's so beautiful. I said I miss Sabaa's prose so much. I was worried like a lot of the time reading that, because of the way my brain processes grief and trauma, and by processes I mean not really at all, it would hinder me from like truly immersing myself in the story and feeling the story. But I really should have known better. I should have trusted that Sabaa was going to deliver. I would never doubt her ever again. Like I was saying, there's such a vulnerability and honesty in the writing that comes from like a lived experience kind of informing the narrative. Sal and Noor deserve so much better than the hand that they were given. Oh my god, I hurt for them as if I know them. Like, those are my children. I will die for them. All I want to do is just like wrap them up in a warm blanket and like feed them biryani and chai. I think this book kind of like really started my current chai obsession that I'm in at the moment. My masala chai kick. I refuse to live without it now, by the way. This book made me really hungry, and I still haven't satisfied that craving. So I think I need to order out immediately. Sabaa. Okay, this is where I decided to fit my last contender onto this list. I couldn't figure out where else to put it, so I'm gonna put it here. And it's Goodreads by B.K. Borison. Of course, there's gonna be B.K. Borison on my favorite reads list. Goodreads. First of all, B.K. Borison can do no wrong. In BK we trust. I say this all the time. Every single time I mention this book or just a BK book in general. Goodreads was the last book that I read in 2025, and I cried. I didn't expect that. There were tears. I've never boohoo cried over like a contemporary romance. Well, paranormal romance, but you know what I mean. The way I did with this book. So this book is a paranormal Christmas Carol sort of like inspired book that follows Harriet, who is an antique shop owner. She's obsessed with Christmas. She is always chomping on a candy cane. And Nolan, a ghost of Christmas past, former sailor who unfortunately drowned in the Irish Sea like 100+ years ago and has been living his afterlife haunting the worst of humanity. He pops up in Harriet's living room, and both are very confused because she's the farthest thing from a Scrooge, and this just follows them and them falling in love and just oh. This book for me kind of was a bit too personal. It was a little bit too personal. I keep saying, and forget close to home, this book hit like directly on my home, and I wasn't prepared. Both of these characters are very lonely characters that kind of go through life. One is a ghost, like legitimately, but also both of them feel like ghosts in their sort of like overlooked existence. And there are a lot of Harriet specifically felt too personal. Some of her issues, like feeling detached and disconnected from like her family and whatnot, and going through feeling like unseen. And anyway, this book left me wrecked. I am not going to read my whole like little blurb. I did post my review, my like thoughts on this book on Substack. I'll link that below if you want to read the whole thing. This book was admittedly pretty difficult to read at some points. It hurt my feelings. I had to put it down at one point, but it also like felt very like a nice, like it felt like a hug. It felt like I wrote like a lighthouse. If you've read the book, you understand that sort of reference. I've discovered that the reason that I'm still single, I'm clearly just waiting to be haunted by a hot ghost of Christmas past who takes care of stray pets and has a mustache and an Irish accent and loves the sea and knits, like maybe next Christmas. Anyway, this book, I'm so sorry, in the weeds. This book might just be BK's best book yet, and it might have just taken my spot for #1 BK Barson book. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. There are 2 BK Barson books coming out in 2026. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to compete. One is the next one in this series, and it follows a Grim Reaper, and are they both Grim Reapers? Both are paranormal entities, I guess, in grim tidings. But this book also kind of really saved my Christmas spirit in the moment that I was reading it, which was like the couple days leading up to Christmas. Yeah, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't move on from it. So oh, what are we doing? Oh, football, sorry. So obviously I had to include it here. I had to fit it in somewhere. So let's get back to the actual list. Next is a book that really did disturb my spirit. It unsettled me in like the best way. In July, I dedicated my entire TBR to reading Sylvia Moreno Garcia books. That is the vlog that is halting all of the rest of the vlogs for the year, because that is on my hard drive that I have finally sent off to get the files recovered. So hopefully you will see that soon. But in that month, for that video, I finally read Mexican Gothic. And you guys, y'all weren't lying about Mexican Gothic. Everyone who has ever talked about Mexican Gothic, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. In the immortal words of Gina Rodriguez, Miss Jane the Virgin herself, this book gave me the heebie-jeebies. Ew. Ew. This book was nasty. This book was disgusting. As someone who absolutely loves mushrooms, hello, this is the second time that my love of mushrooms has been used as an attack, a personal attack on me. Ew. Ew. Blech. This book is absolutely unsettling. It's absolutely disgusting. It's infuriating. Backtrack. This book follows Noemi, who has just received a letter from her cousin. What is her cousin's name? I don't remember her. Catalina? Catalina? I think it's Catalina. Catalina has just married this man. Catalina has just married this white man and has been whisked off to his family's like mountain estate. This gloomy mountain isolated estate in the mountains of Mexico. And she has written her cousin saying that essentially that like something's very wrong. She is being haunted, essentially. She needs help from her family. It is an emergency. I think we have an emergency. Naomi goes up to see like what's going on here. The family is treating Catalina, I'm going to keep calling her that because I think that's her name, as if she's gone mad. She is the mad woman in the long white dress. She's not being kept in the attic, but she is being kept from her cousin. There is something amiss with this house, with this family. Naomi is kind of like being drawn into some things in the attempt to rescue her cousin, and the only one that's willing to help her is the husband's cousin, I think. It's a lot of weird shenanigans going on, okay? So this family is absolutely infuriating. This book simultaneously made my skin crawl and my blood boil. I said that might also be because if someone's super duper allergic to mold, my body automatically started reacting to the environment of this book. Sometimes I struggle to fully visualize and imagine the setting and environment of a book, but I was in High Place, which is the name of this manor estate. I was struggling through the fog, every claustrophobic and isolated and rotting moment. I also said that Naomi is a better cousin than I am, because I would have bounced a long time ago. Either that or I would have burnt the house down. I would have burnt the house to the ground the first time that those Doyles, is that their name, got weird with me. And boy were they weird. Boy were they weird and nasty. Not kind of the same type of nasty. If I could spit at my camera right now, I would. That's how I feel about the Doyles. This book truly was the epitome of humans are more horrific than anything supernatural. And then you add the weird mess. This is one of the few books that got a full visceral physical reaction from me. I just felt the need upon finishing the book to bleach all the walls. Bleach everything. I want to move on. I want to move on because I'm starting to itch. I got so just worked up, I closed the book. So the next book I want to talk about is the third book in one of my current favorite series, and it's Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. Of course, if you know anything about me, of course you know that this book was going to make it on this list this year. Tracy Deonn, you know, like, I'm Bree High for life. I'm Bree High for life. I don't even know how to talk about this book. One, because it is the third book in the series. Just also because I just like feel so much about the series and this book and just like where this story is going. Tracy, what do you mean? Tracy, what do you mean? What do you mean? I will proudly say that I got my friend and her sister hooked on this series this year, so thank you, you're welcome. Yeah, I love being right. I don't know, I don't just I'm gonna move on. Oathbound. I don't know when book 4 is coming out, but I'm gonna struggle waiting for it. I don't know, I might reread the series a couple more times in the meantime. Okay, so next we are kicking off the top 5, and they are all books that demolished me in one way or the other and left me a weeping mess at some point. Well, not all of them. I wasn't weeping. A little bit, maybe for a little bit, but not the same way. Let's start with number 5, which is The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve. Wow. I read this book in October. It was the first book I read for my Sinners TBR. I was reading books with Sinners vibes. Okay, briefly. The Reformatory follows Robbie and his sister Gloria. Robbie is 12. He's 11 or 12 and has just been sent to this like reform school institution after kicking a white boy. Did I mention that this is Jim Crow Florida? I maybe should have started there. Robbie also has this ability to see haints. Okay, I'm not going to describe this well. Hold on. This is Gracetown, Florida, June 1950. 12-year-old Robbie Stevens Jr. is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys, a reformatory for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his older sister Gloria. So begins Robbie's journey further into the terrors of the Jim Crow South and the very real horror of the school they call the reformatory. The school itself is based on DÉLIRE School for Boys, which is something I do want to research more. Robbie has a talent for seeing ghosts or haints, but what was once a comfort to him after the loss of his mother has become a window to the truth of what happens at the reformatory. Boys forced to work to remediate their so-called crimes have gone missing, but the haints Robbie sees hint at worse things. Through his friends Redbone and Blue, Robbie is learning not just the rules, but how to survive. Meanwhile, Gloria is rallying every family member and connection in Florida to find a way to get Robbie out before it's too late. The Reformatory is a haunting work of historical fiction, written as only American Book Award-winning author Genevieve Dew could, by piecing together the life of the relative her family never spoke of, and bringing his tragedy and those of so many others at the infamous DÉLIRE School for Boys to the light in this riveting novel. This book is like a historical horror, and boy was it horrific. Okay, this book left me crying to the point where I struggled to open my eyes. I had to physically walk out of the room and go cry in the bathroom. I'll insert the video here.
And entry door with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. This offer ends October 31st. For a free appointment, call 1-800-613-8900. That's 1-800-613-8900. We got new hands-free Skechers today. Have fun, boys.
2 minutes later.
How's that even possible? Luckily, almost every pair of Skechers is machine washed.
This book is categorized as horror, and yes, there are supernatural elements, but the actual horror of this book is humanity, and humanity is absolutely horrific. Is, not was. I see people talk a lot about how scared they were reading this book, how scary this book is, and the only fear I felt while reading this book was for Robbie, was for like these children in this hellscape. The true emotion that really kept me up, the true emotion that fueled me while reading this book was a blind, seething rage. This was the perfect book to kick off a Sinners TBR. There was like a running theme of like fire and burning. And yeah, I was truly unprepared for how this book would absolutely rock me to my core and then just shatter my soul. And it was so much that it took me a minute. It threw me off kilter, and I didn't know how I was going to move on to like another book. My heart breaks for like an entire generation of boys that did live this in real life. I spent a lot of this book like thinking about my family members who were living in the Jim Crow South, specifically my grandfather. I remembered because this book takes place in 1950. My grandmom was born in 1948. My grandmom, her siblings, and her mother moved to Philly from North Carolina that year, 1950. My grandmom was 2. So of course that's where my brain went initially, but then I remembered that my grandfather, my dad's dad, was born in Florida in the 30s. Yeah. So, you know, people who love to be like, that was so long ago. And I'm like, I was pretty old when my grandfather died. Like, I was, what, high school, right? I was like 15 maybe. That's old for someone born in the 30s. Like, it's like people my generation grew up with, know well, are still alive. A lot of, like, I know a lot of people, not a lot, I know a handful of people that were alive and kicking in the South during the Jim Crow era. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, I have a quote in my journal from this book, and it, one of the characters says to Gloria, "I believe in the devil all right, but man don't need the help from Satan to do what folks call evil. Man do evil every day and call it doing their job. It goes further into that. I skipped all that, and then it goes into color folks fighting for what's theirs is a virus to white folk, and they kill a virus so it don't spread. And honestly, reading that today, it just, nothing's changed. Okay, so another book that left me a sobbing, weeping mess in a whole different way. I read Sunrise on the Reaping in May. Suzanne Collins, you will be dealt with. Suzanne Collins is a menace. Suzanne Collins is a supervillain, and I love her. I really do. I really do. But I do also want to see her outside. Sunrise on the Reaping is the newest Hunger Games book. It is the second Hunger Games prequel. We are in the 50th Hunger Games? Yeah. The 50th Hunger Games. We are following the one and only Hamish Abernathy, starting on the day of the reaping, his 16th birthday. Now, I knew eventually we would get Hamish's book and that it would be sad. Sad is not a big enough word for the absolute trauma that I went through reading this book. Suzanne Collins, you will be dealt with. Okay? All right? And I know. First, I know two things. One, we're going to get another book. Just based on everything that's going on right now, we're going to get another book. Someone said that when like, as every time we get something else from the Epstein files, it's like, you know Suzanne's about to give us Finnick's book. Finnick's book is essentially just going to be like the Epstein files. I'm like, what if we don't do that? Because after reading this book, I know I've said for years that I want Finnick's book. Keep it. Keep it. If you have the file, Suzanne, delete it. I'm good. I'm so fine. This movie, I don't know if I can go see it in theaters. It's going to do irreparable damage. I want to move on. One, because the game's on and we are in the second quarter, so I gotta speed through this. Number 3 is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I've been saying that I wanted to read this book for, it feels like a decade now. I don't think it has been, but it feels like it. As we know, you probably don't, I don't know. I've been really focused on reading like the Black classics, the Black staples of literature, and I've been working my way through the Titans, you know, and I've been saying, okay, I've finally read James Baldwin next year. This year I'm gonna read my first Zora Neale Hurston. Almost didn't do it. I almost missed out. I read Their Eyes Were Watching God in December. I think it was like the second to last book that I read this year. I read it like right before Good Spirits, and the teeny tiny book really has me in a chokehold. I still haven't stopped thinking about it. I think I still bring it up and at least once a day. I think I bring it up at least once a day. I'm looking at my mom to confirm. This book was just beautiful. It was beautiful. It felt like a slow autumn afternoon, like the kind, like you can smell it, that like hazy summer heat. Like I said it's absolutely absurd that I'm just experiencing this masterpiece. I struggled to put it down. In such a short amount of time, I went through a full range of emotions. One, men are disgusting. Men are the worst. I'm just gonna leave it there. Read the book. Did we do it? Let's go. Go Birds. Anyway, it left me feeling very thankful to have been born when I was born, where I was born, in the family in which I was born. This is another book that had me thinking of the people in my life, specifically my great-grandma, who, like Janie, was born young, married very young to a man significantly older than her, who was not great. Like I said before, they moved up to Philly. She moved up to Philly with 3 kids under 10, right? On her own at 25. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. And I just like wish that I could talk to her about like everything. Janie spent so much of this book just longing to be loved and to be seen and to live a life of her choosing, and then to go through all this just for the book to end the way it did. Devastated me. It devastated me. And that's the thing about Zora's prose. Like, you feel everything so viscerally, like especially towards the end of the book, fear and like devastation and just like terror is the right word, actually. I also feel like I need to find a way to rewatch the movie. I saw the movie when it came out in like 2005, the Halle Berry, obviously. I think that's the only adaptation, truthfully. Upon reading the book, now that I'm very versed in Their Eyes Were Watching God, I think that the movie was miscast. I understand why Halle Berry was cast, but casting Michael Ealy as Tea Cake, despite how pretty he is a choice. And it's not the right one. Number 2 was the second book that I read this year, and it was my first 5-star of the year. And it was Immortal Dark by Tigis Germa. Y'all. So the first book I read this year was An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, and unfortunately that book made it onto my my disappointing reads of the year. I did not get what I needed to get from that vampire-centered dark academia. However, I picked up the right book right afterwards. When I read that a book is dark and bloody and violent, this is the book that I'm expecting. This book, like, this was the vampire dark academia that I deserved. From start to finish, this book was absolutely exhilarating. It was ruthless and vicious and bloody and violent and like so beautifully written, and just like, it feels like the perfect book for people who are like into villains, because these characters are monstrous and unhinged. And 2 words: Jill Roberts. 2 more words: Esther Coleman from Orphan. This is the first book that I read in a while where like the enemies to whatever are enemies, you know? The hatred, the loathing, unadulterated loathing. Yeah, the Kidan and Sisenios are giving what they're supposed to give. I'm obsessulated, if you will. I have Eternal Ruin. I need to start it, but I think I want to reread Immortal Dark first. I was able to meet Tigist in November. Absolutely lovely, and I'm just excited. Also, do you know how refreshing it is to read a black-centered dark academia where the main what's it called, conflict, the big bad, is not racism? Oh my god. Oh my bless. Like, I'm obsessed. Okay, let's talk about number 1. Let's talk about number 1 really quick. We're talking about classics. We're talking about like titans of black literature. I read Parable of the Sower this year. I finally read Octavia Butler, and I have been changed for good. Wow. This book shifted something in me. It shifted something in my life. I have not shut up about this book since March. I read this book as part of my Hosier themed vlog because this was chosen for Wasteland Baby, which is described as like a love letter, a love song for the end of the world. So I wanted like a dystopian, like post-apocalyptic story, and I was like, it's about time I read this book. So this book was magnificent, absolutely magnificent, start to finish. Every single positive thing about this book, every single bit of praise about this book is so true and absolutely deserved. This book is, I can't say it enough, magnificent and terrifying and so startlingly prophetic. Like instantly I was hooked and drawn into Lauren and her mind and her journey. I was absolutely drawn into the storytelling of this book. Lauren, I understand that she might be hard to digest for people because she is kind of know-it-all-y and she's very smart and determined and kind of single-minded, but like her goal is to survive. So like, girl, me too. She's intense, but like, you gotta be in this world, you have to be. This book, like I can't stress enough, this book's a warning, and it's startling, it's jarring to read this book while living within the timeline in which it takes place, especially because like we are a breath away from a lot of the elements in this book. We are on a fast track to the world that Lauren is living in, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying to think about. Everything, my battery died and my camera filled up at the same time, so I'm going to try to end this on my phone. But Miss Octavia Butler, a genius, prolific, and I'm late to the game, but the loss of her is so profound. Every bit of praise heaped on her name feels like an understatement, honestly. And I've said this in the vlog, I said this in my like review of the book, that if one day anything that I write makes me feel the way that made me feel, then I will have succeeded. I cannot get over that book. I also did read Parable of the Talents this year, so we can loop those together. I feel like literally like that book has shifted something, and I will never shut up about it. I got to get my go bag together. I got to learn how to plant stuff and grow my own food. I feel like there's so much I need to be doing to prepare. Sorry, this is shaking so much. I'm like flailing around. Quickly, the last couple books, Parable of the Sower, Immortal Dark, Their Eyes Were Watching God, and The Reformatory. I just posted a post on Substack, basically, with all of my reviews of those books for the year. It's like titled Books by Black Women That Rocked My Soul this year. I'll link it below. Let me wrap this up because I keep moving my camera around because my arms are tired, and I need to wrap this up before my phone decides that we're done. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you've read any of the books mentioned, your thoughts. We can yell about these books and their magnificence below together. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. Let me know what your favorite read of 2025 was. All my places are down below, so you can follow me and I'll follow you back, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.